Okay, stop the music. Okay. I'm just warning you all right now. It's a public service announcement. I haven't put Jake on camera yet because he is still very aroused about the performance and the win of Baker Mayfield.
Oh, am I on camera now?
You're on camera.
Oh, okay. Hey guys.
Look at that hair, man.
Yeah, dude,
look how messy your hair is.
Do you like it? Yeah.
Yeah, you
dude,
were up all night.
I had a long night with Baker. You know what I mean? Like it was crazy.
So, is the Baker blow-up doll still inflated?
No, I popped it last night.
Many punctures.
Yeah, I popped it last night.
Your guy had a hell of a night last night.
Yep.
A hell of a night. How excited are you that the Baconator is back? Like your guy is in full effect.
Yeah, look, first of all, I think it's great for the NFL that the Browns won last night. I'll be the first to say that it was rather gift-wrapped for them with all those turnovers and Ben Roethlisberger's poor performance. But at the end of the day, it's a postseason, and however you get the W is however you get the W. And I think Baker Mayfield played well. I thought he made a lot of great throws. It felt like he was in command. It felt like he was comfortable. The moment wasn't too big for him. Nothing. It felt like he had kind of, arrived in a sense where it was like, hey, like, yes, I am this team's quarterback. I'm going to go and win this postseason game with my offense, and let's do this. And they went ahead and did it. And I think, honestly, I think it's great for the league. You look at, there's a lot of jokes made about, who America's team is now. And that used to be the Cowboys, but I really do think there's a shift happening. I think that with how bad the Cowboys have been, with the fact that they really never win anything, and the fact that the Browns are a really likable story and a really likable team, I do think they're slowly but surely kind of turning into America's team here. I think they have a lot of support from people right now.
Well, one of the things that I think is so interesting is the reaction by Ben Roethlisberger at the end of this game. And if you didn't see it, it was 28-0 before you even could blink. And the Browns went on to really, for most of this game, dominate the Steelers. You look at the way Ben Roethlisberger played. He threw 4 interceptions. He was a big part of the struggles of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He has a $41 million cap hit next year. And walking off the field, it was crazy. NBC cameras caught him crying. It was tough to see. It was tough to watch. Jake, I felt like it was one of those situations where you were watching a guy who knew his career was coming to an end.
Yeah, that's definitely what it looked like to me. In the specific shot that you're talking about, they literally caught him with tears running down his face, and I think that is it's an indication that he understands that if his career was not ended last night, it is coming to an end. I believe he said, didn't we just see he said that he hopes the Steelers will take him back and they can work it out. He must be feeling a tremendous amount of guilt, as I can totally understand that if he is. And I just think overall, the expectations coming into this game are really what kills you in a performance like that. The expectation was, and the storyline coming into this game was, hey, Stefanski's out, the offensive line coach is out, you got all these coaches out, you got players out, the Browns are not even nearly 100%, yet they come in and they dominate you. And by the way, the offensive line absolutely dominated for the Browns. You want to talk about road grading a defense? That's what they did last night. And I just think, while it's not all Ben Roethlisberger's fault that they lost last night, certainly he played a big role, and so that's why I say I totally understand why he was visibly upset.
I think he played a huge part in that. I think this is shocking, and again, this goes back to conversations about Mike Tomlin. There were a lot of people who thought Mike Tomlin should have been fired before this past season. Now that's over for the Steelers. I don't know what you do here because I felt like the Steeler performance was really lackluster. I thought like there were a lot of details missing. I felt like they came out assuming they were going to win this game because of all the issues that the Browns had. That's on Mike Tomlin. Sure, some of that is the players have to come out with an edge, with pop, with fire. I totally understand that. But Mike Tomlin did not have his team prepared to win because he did not have his team prepared to run through a brick wall to win this game. So when they got down, there was no fire to come back. There was no drive to overcome because they assumed it was going to be easy. They assumed they were going to win.
I mean, they were shocked on the sideline, like just straight up shocked. And that's a great point by you. Like when you talk about coaching, especially in the NFL, like it's a little different in the NBA or like Major League Baseball or even the NHL. But in the NFL, you have to come out like ready to die on that field every single week, man. And the idea that Mike Tomlin didn't have this team's head in a place where they were saying to themselves, we don't care what's going on with the Browns.
Yeah.
We are let's assume that we're playing the best team in the league and we got to go out and play a perfect game to win this game. If they would have done that, they would have won this game. That would not have, what happened last night would not have happened. Now, Ben being rusty after a week off, yeah, that probably still would have happened. But you don't turn the football over 5 times if you're mentally in the right place. That just does not happen.
Well, we'll see what happens with the Steelers and Ben Roethlisberger. Again, he's got a $41 million cap hit. That's pretty incredible. I think the other story this weekend has to be the Buffalo Bills. And I think the way that Josh Allen played, really willing them and driving them to victory, not just with his arm, but some of those back-breaking runs. I think he really had what we talked about on Friday. I think he really had that coming out party, that moment where he asserted himself as one of the best quarterbacks, not just in the AFC, but in the NFL on the whole.
Yeah, and, Bills Mafia, the Bills fan base has been saying for a long time that Josh Allen has not been getting the respect that he deserves, that he's a lot better than what people are giving him credit for. And yeah, I think this weekend he came out and proved that. And I think when I watch that Buffalo Bills offense, and really the Buffalo Bills as a squad follow Josh Allen, they follow him anywhere he wants to go, bro. Like that team, and it's a credit to him. It's a credit to the coaching staff, but Josh Allen just understands how to lead guys. And maybe he wasn't the most polished talent coming into the league, but when you have that kind of size and you have that kind of arm, if you're even a little bit coachable, you're going to dominate games. And that's exactly what they did this weekend.
Well, and for him to lead the Bills in rushing, I think speaks volumes. Now, they didn't run the ball for a whole lot. I mean, the grand total of 96 yards, but he had 54 of those 96 yards, and I think that says a lot. I thought the throw to Diggs late where he dropped that ball right over the defender's shoulder in the end zone was just spectacular. The fact that he was rated 121, he threw for 324 and 2 scores. He did everything that you needed him to do. And by the way, I also felt like Phillip Rivers played a pretty good game. He didn't turn the football over. He threw 2 scores. I just felt like the Bills made more plays than the Colts did. And you want to talk about quarterback questions. I do think there's questions around Phillip Rivers' future as well. I think Phillip would like to be back in Indianapolis. I think he's made that pretty clear. I don't know what you do if you're the Colts. I mean, you're a playoff team. Yeah, you lost in the wild card round. Do you go younger at quarterback? I mean, you tried that with Brissett. I think Phillip Rivers has finally stabilized that quarterback position. After you lost Andrew Luck to the shocking retirement coming out of the injury, and I think you bring him back. There's no downside to bringing Phillip Rivers back. That doesn't mean you don't go out if you're in Indianapolis and get yourself a younger quarterback, but what it means is you allow Phillip Rivers to live in that mentor mode. You allow Phillip Rivers to be a big part of the development of whoever your next quarterback is. Nothing bad comes from that, because I think he will embrace that. I thought one of the other shocking games of the weekend, maybe some of the moments in the game were shocking. The LA Rams beating the Seattle Seahawks, and the Jamal Adams hit is one of the most controversial hits I think this season in the NFL. I'm a strong believer that was a dirty hit, Jake. I felt like as soon as Wolford goes down, there's just no reason to dive in there, lower your head, dive in there, and hit his head with your shoulder. There's just no reason to do that. I felt like it was a dirty hit.
Yeah, it definitely. If it's not a dirty hit, it's borderlining on a dirty hit. And the only saving grace if you're Jamal Adams is that John dove head first. And the reason I say that is because the rule in the NFL does say that if you're going to dive head first in an effort to go down, you can be hit. And so I think there's this really gray area, and this comes up all the time in the league. When I look back, I look at the roughing the passer call on that they I can't remember who they called it on, but it was that Kirk Cousins play that essentially was they didn't rough the passer, but it was still called. I look at plays like this, and I say if you're a quarterback and you don't want to even risk being hit, just slide, just go feet first. This is and I'm not trying to blame John, but what I am saying is you're in a postseason game. You're talking about a guy in Jamal who is a physical-ass safety who is coming for you every time, who gets paid to make hits like that.
Yeah.
And by the way, it is not one of the dirtiest hits the league's ever seen. It was not like it was helmet to helmet. It's not like he concussed him. It just turned out poorly. So my point is just
it's the kind of hit that the NFL's trying to get out of.
Yeah, and it's like, dude, like if you're a quarterback, and John's trying to prove a point. He's a young guy. He got the start. Like, great. You got to go feet first. It's just a simple fact in the NFL. Don't go head first, and you can avoid situations like this. But the hit definitely was borderline dirty, for sure.
Yeah, and I don't know what you do with this. I really don't. I don't know if it's possible, to legislate this kind of hit out of the game. It's happening very quick. It's very fast. I don't necessarily think that Jamal Adams had intent to injure him, but I think it's the kind of hit that you can't make.
Right.
And I think it's the kind of hit that you can't allow to be made. And I think that's really more my point, Jacob. Like, if you're the Seahawks now, though, I kind of feel like you're reeling a little bit. Like, How do you feel if I said to you, look at the Seahawks, do you still envision them as one of the best teams in the NFL?
Yeah, I think as long as Pete Carroll's your head coach and Russell Wilson is your quarterback, you're always going to be a contender because those two are extremely talented at what they do. I think this season for DK Metcalf, the back half of the season specifically, really was a shining moment for him. I felt like he really came out as a receiver. He made a lot of big plays for them. But I look at the game yesterday, and he got shut down. Yeah, he's got the touchdown catch, but you're talking about a guy who got targeted 14 to 16 times and had like one or two completions, dude.
I don't know if I'm willing to go with you on that. I kind of feel like, number one, how do I put this gently? Russell Wilson, in my opinion, I think he's still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
No doubt.
I think he's not going to win the MVP. He was in the race most of the year. Russell Wilson missed a lot of throws, and DK Metcalf was open. I don't buy this idea that Jalen Ramsey, who I think is the best cover corner in the NFL, I don't buy this idea that Jalen Ramsey somehow shut down DK Metcalf. That didn't happen. What I saw was a wide receiver who was open, at least had a step multiple times. There were 2-3 times where he ran right past Jalen Ramsey. Russell never even looked that way, which is just befuddling to me because when you have a weapon on the lines of a DK Metcalf and you know he's in man coverage, how are you not at least peeking?
Yeah, and I think,
right?
I could be wrong on this, but I think what they had said during the game coming into the second half is that DK had only gotten like 1 or 2 targets in the first half. So, yeah, I mean, definitely the volume of targets is an issue. And I think, when you have – I'm not ready to say that DK Metcalf versus Jalen Ramsey in a one-on-one matchup is an advantage to Seattle. I'm saying that that's an even matchup because of how good Jalen is. And I think if you put the ball up, you have to hope that DK is going to go get it,
And but I think you have to put the ball up.
Yeah.
And I think you have to give him an opportunity to go.
And by the way, if you're not going to throw it to DK, who are you throwing it to? I mean, he's your best receiver.
Yeah.
Like, how are you not going to him?
Yeah, and they certainly didn't run the ball effectively. I think that was a big part of it as well. All of this to say, I don't know where the Seahawks go from there. Something has to change. You feel like this is who they've been for several years.
Yeah.
And they went through that down stretch after the Super Bowl where they shed payroll, which I agree. I think they needed to do that.
Yeah.
But I also think that you have to, at some point, get back to being elite if you're Seattle, because that's the expectation now. And this isn't a COVID thing. This isn't no fans thing. This is you got beat by a better football team. And it felt like the Rams were the better football team. And obviously, physically, you have guys that can play the game. I don't know. Is it a coaching change? Pete Carroll's been there 37 seasons now, or at least it feels like that. Right? Like Pete's been there a while now. I don't know. I think Pete's still energetic, and I think he's still a hell of a head coach. I don't know what they need, but it feels like the Seattle Seahawks need an injection of something different.
Well, look at what all the good teams have right now. They've got a good quarterback, which Seattle can check that box, right? Potentially one of the best quarterbacks in the game right now.
Yeah.
They don't have a running game. That's their problem. They don't have a running game, and they don't have an offensive line.
Well, they're run by committee. There's no doubt about that.
And that's what I'm saying. Look at what the Browns did last night. Look at the Chubb combo that they have going on here. I mean, you've got two guys who are physical backs who you can hand it off to both, whenever you want to, and they can both catch it in the flat. I mean, that's a hell of a combination. So if you think about the reason I bring that up is because if Seattle had that would give guys like DK more space in the secondary. That would give Russell more time to make better choices.
And at the end of the day, it makes the offensive line better.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's what this team had been. When they were at their best, the Seattle Seahawks were based on Marshawn Lynch throwing Skittles everywhere and, lighting that building up. And you know what? Carson is a good back. He's not an elite back. And I think that absolutely could be part of what's missing in Seattle.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see how they rebound. And now the Rams going forward, I mean, obviously you have a lot of questions. I was a little surprised after the game yesterday that Sean McVay was so, strong about not naming a starting quarterback, because I thought Jared Goff gave you everything you needed as a Rams fan to come in there, throw the ball the way he did with this banged up thumb, run for a big first down. Like, Jared Goff kind of gave you that leadership that you had been waiting for. But I think John Wolford brings them a different dimension, certainly as a mobile quarterback. The whole reason that he got knocked out of this game is because he runs with reckless abandon. He does not think about himself. He thinks about the team first, which, I guess you're in a position of luxury. I think Jared Goff probably has a different perspective and has been motivated a little bit now by the emergence as Wolford is the quarterback on this team, because I also don't think, Jake, there's any doubt that Wolford gave them a boost of energy with his running that they had been lacking. And I think when you're Jared Goff and you're a statue in the pocket and you see a guy like Wolford come into this game and start running the football with reckless abandon and his team gets behind him and it energizes everybody, now all of a sudden maybe that kind of changes your perspective some.
You're telling me there wasn't a little panic when Goff was sitting on the sideline 2 weeks ago with the clipboard on watching Wolford light it up? Come on now. I mean,
Had to be.
You as a quarterback who's gotten to the Super Bowl, but I think we can all agree hasn't lived up to expectations. You can't tell me you got a little bit nervous or you didn't get a little bit nervous. And so I totally agree. I think there is motivation for Jared Goff right now. I think, and I think for Sean McVay, I think it was a wise choice not to name a starting quarterback because the way that Wolford, what he brings to the table versus what Goff brings to the table is two completely different looks for a defense. So why would you give your next opponent a weak head start on prep? Like, make them prep for both. Make them put the work in.
By the way, the Rams go to Green Bay. I think that's the early game Saturday. It is 2:35 on Saturday afternoon in Green Bay. So that's certainly something to watch. Obviously, Tampa, I thought, put on a pretty good show. We were talking about this before the show. Who was the best quarterback we saw this weekend? Boy, I think Tom Brady's got to be in that conversation, which may surprise some, frankly. I mean, that defense, I think, has been a big part of the success of what, Tampa is doing successfully, if you will. I think their defense has been a big part of why they're here. Tom Brady certainly has brought a new, different dimension to that team. There is no doubt about that. Tom Brady looked really good. Yeah. And I think Tom's performance, it wasn't surprising, but it was the right word is vintage. 381, 2 scores, 22 of 40 for 381 and 2 scores was exactly what this team needed. They've got a bunch of banged up wide receivers. And I think the shocking part for me was that Leonard Fournette played a critical role in them winning this football game. And I think if you're a Tampa Bay Bucs fan, Jake, I think that really bodes very well for you going forward.
Yeah, and I think other teams in the league who don't have mobile quarterbacks or who have quarterbacks that are not, able to run around all over the place could take a page out of the Bucs book here. I mean, you look at what they did with Fournette. He had a huge impact on the game. And I think when I see the repercussions of that throughout the game, that is what allows Brady to stand back there and find guys. And I look at what their passing game looks like. My only concern is they're a little bit inconsistent. Sometimes on certain possessions, they will have great flow. Mike Evans and AB and everything will be working fine, and Brady makes these great plays. Everything's awesome. But then other times it just seems like there's no chemistry. Like a lot of times Brady will make a throw and the wide receiver went the other way. So I still think there's a little bit of that at play, but I thought Brady looked really good. He looked comfortable. He didn't not that anybody would expect him to be nervous or have butterflies, but he didn't have any of that. Which I think is noteworthy simply because it's your first postseason with a different team other than New England in your entire career. So I think that matters, So moving forward, yeah, I think Brady, vintage, old reliable, more of the same. That's why I say he should be in the conversation. The guy's 43 years old doing this. We can't forget that.
Yeah, and I think they absolutely have to be in a Super Bowl conversation. I mean, the way that they're running the ball, the way that Brady's playing, the way they're protecting Brady, the way that defense is flying around the field. I think this was one of the big tests of the weekend because it doesn't matter what you think of the Washington football team. That defensive line is elite. It is one of the best in football. I think Chase Young was unbelievable. The way he got after the football, I just think it was a great performance by that Bucs front, that offensive line to stop that Washington football team front was amazing. Yeah. And I think the way that the performance you got out of Heineke was
out of nowhere. Out of nowhere.
What do you say about that? I mean, this is a guy that he was a scrub out of the XFL.
Yeah.
This is a guy who didn't have a job, didn't play football last year.
Yep.
And he comes off the rack and gives you this unbelievable performance. And I just don't know. I don't even know how you describe that.
Well, I think the things, when you are in a situation where you have a quarterback who hasn't played for a year, is coming off the rack, as you said, has just been kind of in the dark for a while, the things in the game that you are concerned about is the pass rush and how that's going to affect him and how that's going to force him into making bad decisions. The thing that was so impressive about Heineke was not the throws he made when there was no pressure and he could just step up and throw it. I mean, the guy's got a gun. Yeah. But what was more impressive to me was that when he was scrambling, he wasn't scrambling mentally. He was scrambling to avoid the rush, kept his eyes down the field, and made plays.
He was playing like a quarterback.
It's unbelievable to me that you didn't play for a year. You step right in here and you make all these plays. Number one, the guy made himself millions of dollars. Number one, that's just not even in, I don't even think that's in question, number one. Number two, I think he's a legitimate option for them to go ahead and start him for a while. Until you draft the next young gun in your organization, I'd start him for a little while.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that he's their second best quarterback now. I don't have any doubt that behind Alex Smith, I think you're bringing Alex back next year. I think he played very well when he was healthy. It's unfortunate he was unable to go, but I don't think there's any question you're bringing Alex Smith back, and I don't think there's any question in my mind that you're bringing Taylor Heineke back. I think the way he played his story, I think you'll have a fan intervention if you don't.
And by the way, it should be noted, and I'm not saying Alex Smith deserves all the credit in the world, but what I am saying here, this is the second guy behind Alex Smith who's come out and dominate. So I'm just telling you, if you're an organization, and let's not that I think it'll happen, but if Alex Smith were to get let go by the Washington football team for whatever reason, I'd pick him up quickly because he clearly can develop young guys, which I think is hugely valuable.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think if you look at what the Washington football team's doing, just looking at and this is obviously a problem. This is not a good conversation to have about a football team. But if you look at the fact that they played six different people threw passes for this team this year.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, Logan Thomas is a tight end. Isaiah Wright's a wide receiver. But if you look at Taylor Heineke, Kyle Allen, Dwayne Haskins, and Alex Smith, when you play four different legitimate quarterbacks, you had a huge miss on Dwayne Haskins here. You cut him. He's done. Obviously, Kyle Allen is a guy that he probably should have been your starter.
Yeah.
He gets hurt. And now Taylor Heineke's a guy that steps right in. Kyle Allen's looking for another football team because he's not going to be, I don't think he's going to be on this team.
Yeah.
It's a pretty interesting story. And the dysfunction, a lot of times in professional sports, not usually in life. If you're dysfunctional in life, you're pretty well screwed. In professional sports, a lot of times dysfunction will create great performances. Dysfunction always creates great opportunities. So I feel like Taylor Heineke's that guy that's going to step into a great opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, he did it once, and I think you're right. They probably will bring Alex Smith back.
Yeah, why wouldn't you?
I would, and I think heading into next season, like I think you're in a place where Alex Smith can be your starter, Heineke can be the backup, and I think there's no reason why you can't feel good about that. I think finally for the Washington football team, you could say that you have some stability at the quarterback position, which would be really nice.
Yeah. So, I agree with that. And then we got to talk Ravens-Titans as well.
This was a game that I was really excited about heading into. But what did I say Friday? The Titans are that team that should be better, and they continue to disappoint.
I'm just not a Lamar Jackson guy.
Right.
I'm not. And having said that, he dominated that game yesterday. When the game was on the line, he won the football game. He is now 1-2 as a starter in the playoffs, and I think you have to give him all the credit in the world. I also think you got to talk about the fact that Ryan Tannehill just did not play very well.
Yeah.
Missed several open opportunities late in the game that could have been the difference maker between winning and losing. He missed those opportunities. Didn't throw the football where it needed to be thrown, and I think they paid a price for that, and the prices are not in the playoffs anymore. They couldn't run the football with your guy, King Henry. He had 40 yards. He ran for 2.2 yards a carry. Terrible.
I mean, and I think, I mean, it's the whole offense is to blame. I thought to me, and I know we were talking about this while we watched the game, but like the Ravens' defensive line is elite. There's no question about it. But if you're the Tennessee Titans, priority number one is to get Derrick Henry going. The idea that he had 40 yards is embarrassing. I mean, that like I don't think it's a stretch to say the Monday after you got your ass handed to you by the Ravens in a postseason game, you should be embarrassed that your stud running back, potentially the best back in the league by some people's standards, had 40 yards. He can't do it alone. The offensive line has to open up holes for him. They have to give him an opportunity to get to the second level. Because once he's at the second level, okay, now it's advantage Derrick Henry because of the size. But he's got to be able to get through the defensive line, and they weren't able to do that all day. So you combine that with Tannehill's poor performance, you're not going to win the game, And then I look at the defense, and I say to myself, hey, I know it's not easy to stop Lamar Jackson. I'm not saying that you got to shut him completely down from running all over the place, but you can't give him however long that run was, like a 50-yard run right off.
Yeah.
You just can't do that. You can't take poor angles playing defense against a running quarterback. It just can't happen. And that's why I say the Tennessee Titans are a team that I would love to have seen win yesterday, but there was just no way that I had confidence they were going to win that game because it just doesn't feel like they're ready to win a big postseason game yet.
You know what else is interesting is that these two teams are very similar. The Ravens and the Titans feel very similar. And I think it just goes to show you how much the league values athletic running quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And because Ryan Tannehill's not a guy that's going to get out of the pocket at every opportunity and try to break your spirit like Lamar Jackson does. And the fact that so many people laud and celebrate what was a spectacular run. Don't get me wrong. Lamar Jackson's touchdown run down the sideline where he hangs the ball over the pylon was nothing short of sensational.
I mean, the thing that's elite about that run is the speed through the middle of the field. Not the stuff up the sideline. That wasn't the play that made the run. What made the run was the speed through the middle of the field, outrunning the linebackers, outrunning the safeties.
Contain.
Yeah.
Outrunning guys who were exactly where they were supposed to be, schematically speaking. And he just flat used his speed to run away from those guys. Now, Kenny Vaccaro isn't going to beat anybody in a one-legged, donkey whipping contest because something's clearly wrong with that guy because he cannot run. But it was amazing to watch. And, again, I want to count the Ravens out. It's probably a huge mistake. to do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I think I'm not a huge Ravens fan. I'm not a big Lamar guy. All the credit in the world to that team for winning the game, but I think the biggest problem we have now is that team has confidence. Now we've gotten back to, hey, we're one of the best teams in the league, even if the media is not telling us. That's their mindset. And when you have that mindset as a football team, my goodness, watch out, because Lamar Jackson running the football is a really dangerous thing. And the last thing I'll say on this too, while we're talking about it, you look at that Wolford hit, and then I look at the fact that there were really no hits on Lamar Jackson yesterday. That's what's so surprising to me, right? Like, he is a fast guy. I get it. He's got speed. He can run away from you. He makes it difficult to hit him. But boy, when you get him on a quarterback draw in the middle of the field, you better light him up. Like, you better just lay the wood to him.
But how many guys won't hit the quarterback?
Well, but you see why.
Yeah, but you've got to hit the quarterback.
Yeah.
Especially when they're running out at the boundary, you got to put the wood to those guys because it keeps them in the pocket. And ultimately, and I know you're probably tired of hearing this, but at some point the quarterback's got to stand in the pocket and deliver the football.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson couldn't do that. So for the first time in his career, he was able to get out of the pocket, run away for a touchdown. And granted, this Titan defense is not very good.
Yeah.
I think we know that all season long. They've been giving up big plays, whatever. I think going forward, you're asking an awful lot if you're expecting Lamar Jackson to run you to victories. I think next week it's going to be really interesting to see in Buffalo a physical Bills defense that likes to hit, that has fast mobile linebackers and a really good front. You're not going to get those same opportunities because that's a defense that Sean McDermott has coached well. They stay at home, and they play sound assignment football.
Yeah.
So I would be really surprised if Lamar Jackson was able to get outside and run effectively the way he did against Tennessee next weekend in Baltimore, in Buffalo.
You mean the Grand Canyon through the A-gap's not going to be there next week against an elite defense? Come on.
I would guess not. I would guess. Now, listen, we're 34 minutes into the show.
Right.
And we haven't talked about firing Matt Nagy yet.
Well, you've done a hell of a job not bringing it up.
And I really would like some credit for that.
I'm giving you credit. I mean, I think you did a heck of a job. But, I mean, we got to talk about it because it's not going to happen.
All right, so let's talk about Donald Trump being banned from Twitter.
Perfect.
Which I'd rather talk about instead of a 21-9 Saints win over the Chicago Bears. Okay, listen, there are some truths about this game that we have to get out. Number one, the Bears defense showed up. They played pretty dang well.
You held them to 21 points. That's pretty good, dude.
The Saints, with all of their weapons back, Kamara, Thomas, everybody healthy, the Bears only gave them 21 points in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. A pretty good performance. Without Roquan Smith, pretty good performance. The Bears offense, terrible. Like, awful. Terrible. Cannot run, cannot pass, terrible play calling. Mitch Trubisky on 4th and 4 runs out of bounds with 2 yards to go. John Wolford gets his head knocked off and his spinal column, pretty much eaten like a shish kebab. And Mitch Trubisky stepping out of bounds 2 yards short of a first down.
Yeah.
And, obviously Twitter knows everything about the NFL.
Duh.
Twitter experts. Everybody was ripping Mitch Trubisky for that. Saying, hey, you know what? We've got to find, a guy that's going to give you his heart and soul. He's got to stop throwing checkdowns. Here's what I say about Mitch Trubisky. He showed you enough the last month of the season that you need to bring him back. And that does not mean that you don't go get another quarterback.
Are we clear on that?
Right? That's not what that means. What that means is Mitch Trubisky's shown you enough that you have to bring him back with somebody who, by the way, has some fucking balls to call an offensive play. Excuse my German. My point is, you got to bring him back with a coach who has some fortitude.
Yes.
Who's willing to call plays and willing to coach quarterbacks not to dump the ball underneath every single chance they get.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, Mitch Trubisky dropped a dime piece on Wims, who dropped the football in the end zone.
Dude.
On a great trick play.
Hell of a throw.
On a great trick play that worked to perfection. He literally put it in his arms, and the ball went right through his arms. That's not on Mitch Trubisky. That's on the wide receiver.
Yeah.
Trubisky has played well enough the last month where you're like, I want a little bit more.
And that's why, and I know we agree on this, and I know you've said this a bunch of times, but when I look at the Bears, I don't think to myself, man, this is a great coaching staff and a great front office who's plagued by an absolute douche of a quarterback, right? Like a guy who just turns it over, plays terrible, like bad decisions. That's not what's happening here. You've got a guy in Mitchell Trubisky who is not an elite quarterback, but is good enough to win you games, is good enough to take you to the postseason. I think we can all agree on that. He's done it time and time again. He played pretty well yesterday. And then I look at the play calling and I say, man, Nagy is not a head coach. He's an offense coordinator. That's what Nagy is. And either way, I wouldn't want him on my football team. You need to get another head coach. You need to get. And the GM conversation, I feel like, is a bigger conversation overall.
I think Ryan Pace has done a terrible job.
He has. But what I'm saying is, if you put that to the side for now and you just say, okay, with what they have, how much better could they be with a better head coach, better play calling, better overall? They could be a lot better. They win that game yesterday if they simply have a better offensive game plan. They win that game.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot in that. Are you committed to the run? Probably not. Are you giving Mitch Trubisky what he needs to develop and succeed? Probably not. Do you have enough talent offensively? Yeah, I think you probably do. You had a lot of injuries on offense yesterday, but everybody does. The biggest issue is I think that you have so much in the NFL draft this year that I don't know that you give Ryan Pace another year to screw it up.
Yeah.
That's the issue for me. And we've talked a lot about this with our Arizona listeners. How many chances do you give Drunky the Clown Steve Keim to screw up the NFL draft?
Look, eventually a squirrel finds a nut, and he found a nut in Kyler.
Well, and he's found quite a few nuts because he's the guy that loves him some nuts. But the point is, okay, we'll move on. The point is, Ryan Pace has not been a guy who typically likes his nuts. Because he's avoided them like the plague. Mm-hmm. And I think when you look at Mitch Trubisky, there's no question that based on what you gave up and who you passed on, Deshaun Watson, some guy that plays quarterback in Kansas City, everybody's mother, like you passed on every other quality quarterback, and you could have Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback right now.
Yeah.
And you traded up to get Mitch Trubisky. You gave away an entire draft's worth of picks to get Khalil Mack, who, again, I say is a good player, but oftentimes is going to go 40, 50 snaps without making an impact. That's a problem. I look at Leonard Floyd being an LA Ram and having a huge impact on that defense over the weekend. Dude. You missed on him as a draft pick, and then you missed on him as a development, and then you let him go, and now he's one of the better defensive ends in the NFC, which, by the way, I don't know if you know this, you play in the NFC, you douche.
I'm screwed.
Yeah, hello. Hey, the drop machine works. Anyway, my point is, Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy have missed on so much talent. I just don't see how you bring them back, and I know you're going to sit here and say, well, they've been in the playoffs 2 of the last 3 years. Cool.
What good is one and done?
You might as well not have gone. You are not on par with the teams in your division, mainly the Green Bay Packers, who continue to humiliate you week in and week out. And it's because you have not committed resources to the right people in general management and coaching to get the right quarterback.
Yeah.
This league is a quarterback league. The Chiefs were also Rams until they got Patrick Mahomes. The Texans were also Rams. Well, never mind. They're still also Rams. My point is, the Bucs weren't also ran until they got Tom Brady. Why have the Green Bay Packers been consistently good except for the last 4 years previous when Aaron Rodgers sucked and the Bears injured him? Because they went from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers and his porn stash, who his entire family hates him. That's why they've been consistently good, Jake.
Yes. When your family hates you, apparently you play better.
I feel better about myself as a man now.
Good.
Anyway, the point is, I think you got to let Mitch Trubisky play another year in Chicago with a different head coach and a different general manager.
I completely agree, man. And I look at the Mahomes situation. Patrick Mahomes wouldn't be where he is.
Stop. It's Patty Ice, please.
Patty Ice, Patrick Mahomey, whatever you want to call him.
The Mahomies?
Yeah, whatever you want to call him. Mr. State Farm commercials.
By the way, Aaron Rodgers looks like a dick in his State Farm commercial.
He is a dick. Why is this even a conversation? The guy is a hell of a quarterback, but he is a dick.
All right, I should get to some of the comments because some people are upset.
Here we go.
Barry, the Chicago Bears fan. Stop.
Don't fake like you're a Bears fan, Barry.
No, he's trolling me. Barry says, oh, yeah, we love Mitch Trubisky. Let's trade him for Daniel Jones. No, I'm good. Thanks. Saquon Barkley, no, stop. I'm not. Stop comparing the Giants. See, you think I'm a bitter Bears fan? Barry is absolutely a without question. Barry is a bitter New York Giant fan, even more to the point than I am a Bears fan.
Yeah.
Skyler says, you know nothing about football. Mitch Trubisky's an all-pro. Again, I believe that's a trolling comment.
Yeah.
I believe. The Jamal Adams hit was not dirty. This is one of those things where everybody hates the Seahawks, so of course it was dirty. I'm not okay.
Here's another 12er with the conspiracy theories.
That's a 12. Yeah, it's a double half dozen. The 12ers, baby.
A double half dozen.
It's all I got. The Jamal Adams hit on John Wolford, it was not, and he went on to say it was helmet. It was not helmet to helmet. It doesn't matter. There was significant contact to the head, which you cannot make. And by the way, he was penalized because he lowered his head. Jamal Adams did to make the hit, which you can't do. He led with the crown of his helmet, which you can't do. So by rule, it's an illegal hit.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Yeah. Does John Wolford look like a bitch? Well, he does. So why are you treating him like one? Well, the point is, see, that's a movie line that plays into, what's the name of that movie?
Pulp Fiction.
Thank you. Do you know I can never remember the name Pulp Fiction?
I didn't know that. It's
just one of those things where you're like, oh yeah, that Tarantino movie. What Travolta? And it'll be like, Kill Bill? Kill Bill's another Tarantino movie.
Yeah,
Quentin Tarantino's the guy who directed Pulp Fiction. Anyway,
I get it. I get it.
Jamal Adams, the hit was dirty because you can never make contact to the top of somebody's head and drive their neck into their rectum because there's a little thing called a spinal cord in there, bro. Do you know what I'm saying? Stever in a golden thong. Okay, so now we've gone from the Stever to Stever in a golden thong.
I love that Stever's having fun with his names.
Stever over the weekend, by the way, did tell me that he is back in quarantine.
Of course. So
because of contact tracing.
Number 4 now.
Yes, their whole unit is quarantined because of contact
coronavirus.
tracing. So there you have it. He says, by the way, I have no experience hosting radio shows, but I could do a better job than Jake. Why is he kissing everybody's ass today?
How am I kissing ass?
Oh, and there it goes. It disappeared. He essentially wanted to know if it was true that you had a Baker Mayfield blow-up doll.
That's not true. I don't have a Baker Mayfield blow-up doll. That's just a
what?
joke. That's a joke.
What are you? What?
It's a joke.
Do you have any Baker Mayfield
No, I don't.
sex toys?
I don't even have a jersey, dude. I don't.
If you did, would it have stains on it?
No. Stop.
Okay.
Stop.
You're a clean eater. I agree. You don't drip your wing sauce.
Stop.
What did you think I meant?
Dude, stop.
You're disgusting. Anyway, the point...
It's an erection.
The fact that the Stever's asking if you really have a Baker Mayfield...
Dude.
It's actually not that easy, but for me it was easy.
The Stever actually thought you had a Baker Mayfield blow-up doll.
Wow.
My job is done here.
Wow.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Wow.
Make sure you hit subscribe on the YouTube channel there by searching The Monty Show.
I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. I'm fried.
MONTY, The Monty Show.